هذا اللي بده يحصل اصلا هذا واللي بده اياه.
وين هي الدولة اللبنانية ترد؟ وين هي؟
Good afternoon. It is Monday, June 17th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Politicians and religious figures scramble to control escalating violence in Lebanon as funerals for 3 Lebanese men and a Turkish killed in the Baalbek region begin. The Syrian conflict expected to dominate talks among leaders of the G8 nations meeting in Northern Ireland, while a car bomb targeting a checkpoint near an airport in Damascus kills 10 people. And members of 2 union federations in Turkey go on a one-day strike over the forced evictions of protesters from Istanbul's Gezi Park. Politicians and religious figures are scrambling to control escalating violence in Lebanon as funerals for the 3 Lebanese men and a Turkish national killed in the Baalbek region begin, and tensions remain high across the Bekaa Valley. Continuous calm prevailed in the Bekaa Valley as families laid some of the men to rest and prepared for other funerals later in the day. Ali Karimi Jafar and Muhammad Ali Ahmed Jafar were buried in the northeast Hermel village of Al-Qasr on the border with Syria around noontime. 2 men from the Jafar family, one from the Amhaz clan and a Turkish whose mother is Lebanese and hails from the Saifuddin clan in Baalbek, were killed on Sunday in an ambush in Wadi Rafi, an isolated area in the Bekaa Valley near the Syrian border, and the towns of Arsal and Ras Baalbek. Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam slammed the murder of these 4 men in the northeastern Bekaa town, saying that it is aimed at creating strife in the country. He urged in a statement all sides to exercise restraint and reason in order to thwart strife. He declared those behind the crime do not seek the well-being of Lebanon or the Lebanese people, and they should be dealt with firmly and according to the law. He called on the residents of the Bekaa regions of Baalbek, Al-Hermel, Arsal, and all other areas to exercise calm and avoid falling victims to the attempts to create strife in the country. He also demanded that the security and judicial agencies be allowed to perform their duties in investigating the incident and apprehending the assailants. EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton is scheduled to arrive in Beirut today to meet with senior Lebanese officials. Talks are set to focus on several issues, including the influx of Syrian refugees into Lebanon and the repercussions of the Syrian crisis on the country. Ashton is set to announce a new figure of European aid to Lebanon and neighboring countries, taking into consideration the probability of an upsurge in refugees following the escalating confrontations in Syria that could even grow stronger in the next 3 months. Ashton will hold meetings with President Michel Sleiman, Speaker Nabih Berri, Caretaker PM Najib Miati, and Premier Designate Tamam Salam. She will meet with 27 ambassadors of the EU in Lebanon and heads of missions and bodies of the Union. Reports are still unclear, however, if Ashton will be visiting any other country in the Middle East. Head of the Lebanese Option Party, Ahmad al-Assad, blamed Hezbollah leader Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah and senior officials in the Lebanese state for the recent killing of an anti-Hezbollah protester outside the Iranian embassy in Beirut. Assad also scheduled another protest set for Sunday, June 23rd, at the same time and place of Hashim Salman's killing. That's 12:30 p.m. in front of the army barracks near the Iranian embassy in the Bir Hassan neighborhood. Salman, who was a 28-year-old student leader in the Lebanese Option Party, was killed and several other protesters wounded in the June 9th demonstration. Assad's comments came during a rally at his residence in the Babda village of Hazmiye, marking a week since Salman's death. A car bomb targeting a checkpoint near a military airport in the Syrian capital has killed 10 soldiers and wounded 10 others, according to activists. The attack, which took place late on Sunday in the Mazeh district in western Damascus, comes as President Bashar al-Assad's forces press ahead with an offensive to regain territory they lost to the rebels trying to topple his regime. The army has scored major victories in key battlefields in western and central Syria in the past weeks, and is now setting its sights on the country's largest city, Aleppo, in the north, parts of which have been opposition strongholds. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that 10 soldiers died in the attack in Mazeh and 10 were wounded. The upscale neighborhood houses several embassies and a military airport. The observatory, which relies on a network of informants inside Syria, did not state how many were dead or how many were injured. The Syrian conflict is expected to dominate talks among leaders of the G8 nations meeting in Northern Ireland. Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet U.S. President Barack Obama during the two-day annual summit for what could be prickly talks, as both leaders now offer military support to opposing sides in the war. Germany, France, Japan, Italy and Canada will be represented in the summit starting today at the luxury lake-fringed Lough Erne Golf Resort in County Fermanagh. British Prime Minister David Cameron is the host of the meeting of the top 8 industrialized powers, and he insisted he could overcome his differences with Putin after they held pre-summit talks in London. In London, Putin insisted that Moscow had abided by international law when supplying weapons to Assad's regime and demanded that Western countries contemplate arming the opposition to do the same.
We don't see eye to eye on everything. We have different histories, different perspectives. But as our event today with the veterans of the arduous World War II Arctic convoys remind us, when we overcome our differences, we can be a powerful partnership. To end Syria's nightmare, he has to go. The new evidence this week of how the regime is gassing its people makes that clearer than ever. I also believe that if we leave Syria to be fought over between a murderous dictator and violent extremists, we will all pay the price.
Coming up next, 3 bomb attacks in Iraq killed 12 people. This is the latest in surge of violence that has left nearly 2,000 dead. Stay with us. 3 bomb attacks in Iraq, including a blast inside a roadside restaurant, have killed 12 people, officials say, the latest in a surge of violence that has left nearly 2,000 dead since the beginning of April. The bomb left inside the restaurant in Taji, which serves travelers on the highway linking Baghdad to several northern cities, killed 7 people, including 2 women and a 12-year-old child. Also in Taji, a bomb placed inside a minibus killed 2 commuters and wounded 11 others, according to police. Taji is a former insurgent stronghold located about 20 kilometers north of the Iraqi capital. The attacks follow a day when at least 51 people were killed in a wave of bombs and shootings across Iraq. Violence has spiked sharply in Iraq in recent months, with the death toll rising to levels not seen since 2008. More than 190 have died this month alone. Iranian President-elect Hassan Rouhani paid his first visit since the vote of the shrine of Iran's revolutionary leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Crowds of supporters and heavy media awaited the arrival of Rouhani at the shrine of the founder of the Islamic Republic, which many Iranians revere. A large wreath was carried to the shrine, where Rouhani paid his respects and performed prayers. Earlier in the day, Rouhani, who won a landslide victory promising better relations abroad and more freedom at home, also met Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who will ultimately decide the pace of any change. Rouhani, a mid-ranking cleric, is an Islamic Republic insider who has held senior political and military posts since the 1979 Islamic Revolution and maintained a good rapport with Khamenei, Iran's most powerful man. Members of 2 union federations in Turkey have gone on a one-day strike over the forced evictions of protesters from Istanbul's Gezi Park, the focal point of fierce anti-government demonstrations that swept much of the country over the past 2 weeks. Labor groups representing doctors, engineers and dentists are also said to have joined the strike on Monday. The striking groups represent about 800,000 workers. The Turkish Interior Minister Muammer Güler said the strike was illegal and warned of police action. The call for the strike comes as police and protesters clashed sporadically in Istanbul overnight following a weekend of scuffles in the city. Riot police, backed by a helicopter, summoned plainclothes and carrying batons, fired tear gas and chased groups of rock-throwing youth into side streets around the iconic Taksim Square and Gezi Park late on Sunday night, trying to prevent them from regrouping. Some world headlines in brief. 4 people have died from the MERS virus in Saudi Arabia, bringing the death toll from the SARS-like virus in the kingdom to 32, according to the health ministry. 2 people died in the western city of Ta'if, and the other 2 were pronounced dead in eastern province, where most cases have been registered. The virus is a member of the coronavirus family, which includes the pathogen that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, known as SARS. SARS sparked global panic in 2003 after it jumped to humans from animals in Asia and killed 800 people. People in Prague's Václav Square reacted to the resignation of Czech Prime Minister Petr Nečas, mostly welcoming his step to make way for a new government. Nečas was forced to quit by a graft and spying scandal involving his closest aide, pitching the European Union member state into a period of uncertainty over who would form the next government. And torrential rain and floods washed away buildings and roads, killing at least 23 people in the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. Officials said more than a dozen people died in the state's Rudraprayag district alone. A landslide triggered by the monsoon rains varies the bluffs, killing 3 people in Almora district. At least 3 other people were washed away when a 3-story apartment building toppled into a river. It was carried away by the swift-moving current. Let me remind you of our top stories for today. Politicians and religious figures scramble to control escalating violence in Lebanon as funerals for 3 Lebanese and a Turkish national killed in the Baalbek region begin. The Syrian conflict expected to dominate talks among leaders of the G8 nations meeting in Northern Ireland, while a car bomb targeting a checkpoint near a military airport in Damascus kills 10. And members of 2 union federations in Turkey go on a one-day strike over the forced evictions of protesters from Istanbul's Gezi Park. A lot of Monday news here on Future Television in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal. See you again tomorrow at 4:20 for all the latest.
وين هي الدولة اللبنانية تراد وين هي؟